I have them making it to the divisional round because I have them hosting a playoff game as the division winner, and then I have them winning that one. Who do I have them losing to in the divisional round? I think it's the Lions again, actually. I think it is. I have them losing to the Lions again. I think I had them going up against the Packers in the first round of the playoffs in a dogfight in Tampa, but they came out on top on that one. So I have them going to the divisional round. You have them missing the playoffs at 9-8. Talk to me about their offensive MVP, just what you think with this team kind of coming off another division title and what they're going to be this year.
Yeah, it's tough with the Buccaneers because, like you, I was low on them heading into last year, and then they kind of turned the whole thing around with Baker Mayfield. And I think the one thing that gives me pause is they were the lowest graded team to make the postseason last year, and they really had a tough midseason stretch. I believe, were they 3-7 after 10 games or 3-6 after 9? It was somewhere in there. And then they made some adjustments and caught fire, but there's still some flaws on this team, right? There's a guy we really like that they drafted that could fix some of their interior offensive line problems. Look, Mike Evans, maybe he'll just get 1,000 yards every year till he's 50. I mean, eventually we'll see if he doesn't get a little bit older. They still kind of struggled to run the ball for a lot of last year, and their pass rush is a lot more manufactured than it is individuals winning. I know guy like Yaya Diaby had a really good rookie season, right? But a lot of it is manufacturing the blitz with Todd Bowles, and then as they got hot down the stretch, they made some adjustments we're going to get into, but I still think 9-8 still sounds right to me for this team, and then the situation around them, obviously with Atlanta getting better, and I think the NFC wildcard race is still going to be really, really competitive. So I don't have them missing by much, but for me, the offensive MVP, and I could argue he's been the offensive MVP for them for the last 4 years, and it's Tristan Wirfs. This is one of the best tackles in football. I think through 4 years in the league, he might be on a Hall of Fame type of track, man. Since he entered the league in 2020, he is fourth in overall grade and pass blocking grade. And this is a guy last year who, look, he switched from right tackle that he played his first 3 years over to left tackle last year, and it was a thing I really questioned going into the year. I was like, okay, he's 3 years in. He's switching sides. He's maybe the best right tackle in football, either him or Lane Johnson, you would say. And he goes, and it's like seamless. And he's just so talented, and he was this talented. I mean, talk about one of the best picks made in the 2020 draft. This guy he's so consistent every year. I think what he does at tackle and his moving over, and then allowing Luke Gedeke to really shine at right tackle in that vacated spot. What it did for their pass protection and just balancing them out. They have to get better on the interior, but this is one of the best pairs of tackles in the league. And the fact that you have a guy like Wirfs protecting on the blind side gives Baker Mayfield a lot of comfort just knowing, okay, I have a little bit of time to make these throws as long as it's not a push in the middle. But there's head-to-head, Wirfs can block anybody. He can block anybody in the league in pass protection. And I think as young as he is, I believe they still need to get an extension done with him, right? They haven't paid him yet.
Oh, no, they paid him.
Oh, they did. They got him done. I couldn't remember all those Bucs guys if they got all of them done or get. I mean,
they got all of them done. I mean, Chris Wirfs got
Jason Light. Jason Light was some absolute wizardry getting all those guys signed this offseason, and Tristan Wirfs deserves every dollar of it. He's so good. He's the anchor of their offensive line, and he's still going to be for a long time. I think you could argue since 2020 he's been their most valuable player.
Yeah, and it's hard to argue against that. I'll go Baker Mayfield on the other side, but just to touch on Tristan Wirfs, you have an all-pro offensive tackle at left tackle and right tackle. And he's proven that. And it's so rare to have a player who is able to seamlessly transition from one side to the other. Luke Gedeke, as a second-round pick, coming out of Central Michigan, he was bad his rookie year. There was no sugarcoating it. They were trying to play him on the interior. He played offensive tackle when he was at Central Michigan. They're trying to move him inside because Jason Light's kind of done that before with a lot of different offensive linemen. Like Alex Kappa was that way. Cody Mock was that way. Ali Marpet was that way, right? You move these guys inside and they could play a lot better. But oh my goodness, he was unplayable basically when he was on the interior his rookie season. Then they kick him out to right tackle, and you go, whoa. This guy already was not good last year. Now you're going to give him more one-on-one responsibility as a right tackle, and it was his more natural position. They were able to do that because Tristan Wirfs could flip from one side to the other, and Gedeke became a very reliable right tackle that we saw last year. And you mentioned now there's a debate that these two are one of the best offensive tackle duos in the league. And you only kind of get that flexibility because Tristan Wirfs is that good to be able to flip to the other side and still play at a very, very high level. So Good shout out on Wirfs there, who, yes, did get paid. Another guy who got paid is Baker Mayfield. And Mayfield from week 15 on last year, including the playoffs, 86.1 passing grade, 13 big time throws, 7 turnover worthy plays. The turnover worthy plays and the turnover worthy play percentage, it's always going to be a little bit higher for Mayfield because that's kind of just who he is. But if last year you're telling me that was sort of the baseline of what we were going to get from Mayfield in an unfamiliar situation behind a new offensive line, an offense that was kind of trying to figure out its rhythm. Dave Canales is a first-time play caller. He's throwing to his wide receivers for the first time. If you're telling me that now he's got an offensive coordinator that he's worked with before, and Liam Cohen, when both of them were with the Rams, not a long time, but he's got that familiarity. Cohen has been a play caller for 2 seasons that he was at Kentucky as their offensive coordinator, and then obviously had some experience in the building with the Rams as well. A better and improved offensive line, which we'll kind of get to as things go on, and even better wide receiver room than he had last year, and even deeper running back room to get to. How do I not predict that Baker Mayfield could potentially not be the best version that we have seen from him in the NFL this year? I think that is well within the cards. So I think that they will go as he goes, as the quarterback position is often a centerpiece of how a team performs. So I'll go Baker Mayfield here, but defensive MVP, who you got?
I'm going with another safety for the second straight team. And look, I think you could argue Antoine Winfield Jr. is the best safety in football. Certainly.
I'll argue it.
I know you'll argue it all day. It's certainly he's the most versatile. Look, what he can do in any aspect of the game, in run defense, in coverage, rushing the passer. He might be the best blitzer in the entire league right now. He ended the regular season, Trevor, with at least an 85 grade in all 3 of those facets, right?
Yep.
That sounded like a fun combination to me. So I had to go back and look at it. I'm like, how many safeties have actually done this, right? And when I went back and looked, the only other safety to finish a regular season with those 3 grades that high was Eric Weddle in 2012. They're the only 2 guys who have done it. And there's some other really fun names that got really, really close. Kevin Byard was close, I think, 1 or 2 years. Kerry Rhodes, Jets legend back in the day, was really close. But Winfield, oh, that's a pull, isn't it?
Kerry Rhodes is a good pull.
That Rex Ryan defense was something at a lot more than just Darrelle Revis. They were stacked. But this Winfield, man, I remember I actually got to grade their defense in Week 18 when they beat the Panthers 9-0. And that play that he made, ranging back on the goal line after there was a bust in coverage that should have been a touchdown, that individual play saved their season. I couldn't believe he made that play to force a fumble that went out of the end zone. And the Panthers, they were going to go ahead in that game. They busted the coverage. It was walking in for a touchdown. And he just ranges across from the other side of the field to make this incredible play to force this fumble. These are the types of plays. He makes wow plays. I mean, just spectacular plays all over the field. I think the most versatile safety in football. I think you could argue the best safety in football, and he holds everything together on the back end for them. He's just incredible. Another guy that got paid this offseason and deserves every bit of what he got. He's going to be the glue that holds this Tampa Bay defense together for a long time.
No, you're 100% right. I mean, that entire Todd Bowles defense is built around, I think, 3 players in particular, right? It's Vita Vea being a mismatch player in the middle of their defensive front. It's what Levante David can do as a anticipator with his football IQ and how he can manipulate space at the second level. And it is without a doubt everything that Antoine Winfield Jr. can do for you on the back end as a single high safety, as a box safety, as a slot defender. No role is too great for Antoine Winfield Jr., so obviously that's a great call out. I'm going to go with sort of like a sneaky MVP because those 3 players that I just mentioned, I think that they're going to be good. They've been good every single year that they've played. Better than good. I think good might be insulting at this point for some of those guys because they're superstars. Jamel Dean is in a situation where he's now CB1 of this group. And sometimes he was in the past. Carlton Davis hasn't exactly played up to as well as he was during that Super Bowl run. The last 2 years he's been hurt, and even when he's been out there, he's been inconsistent. But Davis has in many ways handled a lot of their CB1 duties, especially when they would go man coverage. And Bowles likes to play a lot of cover 3 stuff, but he also will switch it up and get more aggressive and play man on you. And felt like Carlton Davis was always sort of asked to take a lot of the better wide receivers in the league. Now, Dean is stepping up. Now, Dean's got really good coverage grades basically throughout his entire career. Every single season that he's been in the league, all 5 years, his season coverage grade has been somewhere between 70 and 80. So incredibly consistent in how well he's been able to play at the NFL level. So I don't want to take anything away from him there, but I looked it up. In the games in which Carlton Davis was not active for whatever reason, And he was sort of elevated to, okay, now you are the top CB in our scheme. 69.8 coverage grade in all of those games. So a little bit less, not too far less, but a little bit less. He's now going to be doing that the whole season because the other guy on the opposite side is somebody who's a full-time starter for the first time in Zion McCollum. And they're going to be kind of mixing it up in the slot with, Christian Izzy and Tyke Smith as well. So a lot of their secondary is going to be hanging on the shoulders of can Jamel Dean week in and week out cover some of the best wide receivers in the NFL. And so I think he has to kind of be a defensive MVP for them because I'm expecting it from those other three pillars that I mentioned. Dean's now got to step up because he's got the opportunity to. What about a breakout player?
A breakout player is a guy that I really liked at the end of last season. And that's Lavonte David's new running mate at linebacker, KJ Britt. Okay, former fifth-round pick, and the impact that he made, he got kind of worked into a starting role at the end of last season when, coincidentally when the Bucs got hot. And I actually don't think it's a coincidence. I think he's a big reason for it. Look, Devin White, a really athletic player, can blitz. There's times when he can cover really well, but in the run game, he's just always struggled. He struggled to make reads. Sometimes he overruns things. They just needed more fundamentally sound play, especially against the run at linebacker, right? And what you have, KJ Britt really started playing a lot in week 14, and then he played a lot over the Bucs' last 7 games, going into the playoffs as well. Weeks 1 through 13, the Bucs were 30th in run D grade and 31st for linebackers in run D grade. Okay, even Lavonte David was struggling because he just had too much. He had to carry a load too much. When KJ Britt started getting in there in week 14, the team run D grade moved up to 14th. The linebacker run D grade moved up to 12th. David started playing better. Britt, he's just fundamentally sound. Like I won't sit here and tell you there's anything flashy about KJ Britt. You're not going to see YouTube highlights about him. You're not going to see SportsCenter top 10s with him in there. But he just plays linebacker the right way. And his coverage grade even was solid. I think the high 60s are floating around 70. But what he brought, especially on early downs as a run defender, to just properly complement Lavonte David was so massive for him. And when you saw him on the field, you could just see the difference in the way their entire front seven play. Sometimes you just need that guy who's just in the right gap, who just makes the tackle he's supposed to, who doesn't get overly aggressive on certain things or on play action, right? Who just is where he's supposed to be at all times, right? And it's a role he waited a couple of years for, and he stepped in and he played really, really well. Even though he's kind of one of these unsung heroes among several stars on this team, KJ Britt made a huge difference last year, and I think he earned that starting job rightfully. He's going to have another good season next to Lavonte David.
He outplayed Devin White, straight up. That's how he got on the field. He outplayed Devin White. He was better in the baseline parts of the game. Devin White's more athletic. He's a more athletic dude when it comes to getting sideline to sideline, but KJ Britt was a better linebacker for this team, and it's part of what I think allowed the Bucs to think that Devin White was expendable and did not bring him back this offseason. My breakout player is a rookie. I'm going back-to-back rookies here with my breakout player and my best rookie because I'm excited about this group that Jason Light drafted. Jalen McMillan is my breakout player here. We were wondering kind of who was going to be this third top receiving option, I should say. Like, was it going to be wide receiver or tight end Cade Otton? Were they just going to force feed Rachaad White out of the backfield because he showed some good receiving ability last year? Was it going to be Trey Palmer? Was he going to step up? Was it going to be one of the guys that they've kind of brought in, maybe a Sterling Shepard? It's going to be Jalen McMillan. McMillan was awesome when he was at Washington. Jalen Polk and Rome Odunze got a lot of headlines, and understandably so. They're great players, but it felt like every single Washington game that I watched, they started the game targeting Jalen McMillan for a reason. They were like, okay, first pass for Michael Penix Jr., we're going to Jalen McMillan. Even if it was like a little bubble screen, a little mesh route, a short slant, whatever it was, a little comeback, they were targeting Jalen McMillan, and they wanted to get him in the game plan early and often. 92nd percentile in separation, overall separation last year, mainly versus zone, and then single coverage, he was a 76th percentile in separation versus single coverage. So it's a guy who knows how to get open. We already saw that this preseason, 80.9 grade, and I think that he really does give the Bucs a elite trio of wide receivers now to throw the ball to. Who do you got as best rookie?
Look, there's a ton of good candidates here, including McMillan, and this was one of my favorite draft classes in the league, right? You talk about McMillan, you've got Chris Braswell's going to play some off the edge, Tyke Smith's going to play in the slot on defense, but after what we saw in the preseason, I have to go with their new starting center, Graham Barton. And look, he played a little bit of center his freshman year at Duke, then 3 years of left tackle, but I think the one thing that sticks out for Barton is just there's two things for me. One, his athleticism. He's got tackle athleticism. He brings it to the center position, and you can see it, especially in run blocking. Over the last 3 years, an 87 zone run blocking grade, and that's a perfect fit for Liam Cohen's offense, right? He's more of a zone, one of those zone proteges, right, in the run game under Sean McVay. He was at Kentucky. He used it when he was calling plays at Kentucky. Now he's going to bring it to the Bucs. Look, I think Graham Barton, for an interior offensive line that really struggled last year, this was actually a perfect first-round pick for them, and he performed very well in the preseason. And the other thing I like on top of his athleticism, you want at least one offensive lineman who's just a little bit pissed off, and Barton plays like that, right? I just love, even in the preseason, he plays all the way to the whistle, and even beyond it at times. He just brings, we'll see, the NFL play strength. I think there was one thing that was kind of like, okay, is he strong enough to play in the NFL? And I know he had shorter arms as well, but he just has that attitude also that I really believed he was the one guy in the draft who could play any of the 5 offensive line positions, and the experience at center helps. And the transition so far looks really, really smooth. After 3 years of playing left tackle, I think what he brings from an effort level, what he's going to bring from an athleticism standpoint, and just the leadership he can bring to the center position is so big for them, while they still kind of figure out who are the right guys at guard. But I have very little doubt that Barton's the right guy at center.
I agree with you completely. He's my best rookie for this team. He showed it in the preseason. He showed it earning that center job as early as he did in camp. He's going to be a stud. He was one of my favorite players in the draft from the very beginning last year, even going back to summer scouting. I had Graham Barton as a top 25 player basically throughout the entire process, and it's because he had that left tackle skill set to him, and he was such a great offensive lineman. You could play him at left tackle like Duke did for their last 2 years that he was there, but he also had some center experience. You knew he was probably going to be an interior guy at the next level, and you knew that he was going to be even better. So we're already seeing that here for Tampa, so I agree completely.